Hello again, everyone. This is Grim for part 2 of the building tutorial for Crossout. I'm going to build a vehicle from scratch. I don't actually have a plan. I have no idea how it's going to turn out. I'm just going to build it using the best practices that I've learned so far so that you can hopefully take that, copy it, and use it for your own builds. First things first, we have to get rid of what's already here. Press delete. Do you really want to disassemble the vehicle? All parts will be moved into storage. Yes. We have, at this point, to figure out what kind of build we want to do. So what parts do we want? I'm going to put a frame down real quick first so that I can put one of my cabs down. The cab is the first decision we make because this affects every single decision we make from here on out. What kind of build are we going to do? We have the growl for a fast, light build. Quantum is for a fast, medium build, so kind of a light medium. Or you have the jawbreaker and the step sliders, which are both heavy medium kind of cabins. You'll get more armor and hit points out of these. So I think a medium cab, and we'll use the jawbreaker because that's easier for people to get a hold of than the purple parts. I'm going to go ahead and then delete this 8x4 frame. And then we're going to figure out what we want to do with the rest of the build. I'm going to put a generator down first and foremost because I know that I'm going to want the extra energy points that this affords me. I'm also, at this point, going to press C and lift the cab up in the air and then drop this part. What happens is if I don't do this, when I press tab and go in my inventory, the cab drops right back down and I have to lift it back up. If I do this and place my parts down here, it just stays up in the air and I don't have to worry about it anymore. It's just slightly less irritating for me. I know I'm going to need that. Let's figure out what kind of weapon we're going to put on here. Decisions. Let's do a dual cannon build, actually. I need to get the other little boy. Now, see here, we're already up to 12 of 13 energy points. What's the next part we want to put on here? I'm going to go into our hardware. I know I'm going to need my ammo pack because this is a cannon build. I know I'm going to need my radar. I know I'm going to need my radio. And you know what? This is going to be a money-making build, so let's put the fuel tanks on here. Scope, not for sale, or a chameleon. What should our last part be? I'm going to put a scope on it. Nope, I lied. I didn't put an engine down. So we have two options, the Razorback or the Cheetah in this case. The Cheetah will make us go faster. The Razorback will allow us to carry more armor. So let's go ahead and make a really beefy armored build. So at this point, we have chosen all of the mods, and we're going to figure out where to put these on our vehicle. We have 10 pieces already, so we have 70 pieces left to figure out what the build is going to look like. And we've already maxed out our energy. So let's go over the rest of it. I'm going to start by creating the split frame. Let's get a 2x4 frame, rotate it sideways like this, and stick it out the front end. Center our cab a little bit, copy it, put another one back here. You want 2 points of contact for your frame. Otherwise, if you have fewer than one, or only one part, you can't have fewer than one. That would be non-existent. Ha ha ha! I'm funny. You want to have at least two connection points, because if you lose one part, and it's the only part connecting everything else, it all falls apart, and you have no wheels. It's just a bad situation all around. Also, I haven't chosen what wheels I want to put down yet. I don't know yet. We'll figure it out as we go along. Let's copy these. Control-click to copy a part that already exists, and create a mirror image on both sides. Now, the pocket in here is where I'm going to put my... If it fits, it doesn't fit. generators, my explosives. That way, as much of them as I can anyways, that way they don't, get shot and blow up and kill your whole vehicle. So let's get rid of the side. This is a 6 long piece. This in the gas fuel tank. So we can put them in side by side here, and we'll figure out how to wrap the frame around those in a little bit. We do have a little bit of an extra slot so we can fit another module down here, maybe the radio. We do, however, have a problem. The expanded ammo pack is not going to fit down there, so we'll either have to make a second pocket, or it's going to be a little bit more exposed, easier to shoot off. But regardless. So, this right now is going to end up creating a 6 wide frame, which is a very stable frame. You don't have to worry about flipping over nearly as often, so you're not going to need the car jack as often. Where do we want to go from here? I'm just going to extend the frame out. And I'm going to extend it further than I'm going to need it to. The frame is absolutely going to be modified by the time we're done. This is in absolutely no way permanent. Alright, so the engine. We can put the engine one of two places. Well, we can put the engine anywhere we want. I like to put the engine one of two places, either in the front, directly in front, or behind the cab. This engine doesn't explode, so it doesn't cause any damage when it blows up. And if you put it in the front, what it does is it extends the whole vehicle forward, moves the cab back, so it actually forces you to armor the front of the cab better, which is honestly where you need a lot of it. I'm going to sink it down into the frame right here, just like that, so that we can put a layer of armor over the top of it more easily. And by doing it this way, we use up fewer pieces, and we take up less space for the vehicle overall. And we can do the same thing with this guy. I'm going to scoot this frame in, that way I can snug this thing up against the cab, again taking up less space overall. And I still have this gas tank. We'll figure out what to do with that in a bit. So, what else do we want on here? Where do we want to put the guns? With the cannons, the single safest place to put a weapon is on the cab itself, because if the cab goes, the whole vehicle goes, and if they're going to get rid of just the gun, they have to shoot the gun. However, it does also draw fire to your cab, so what you going to do? Let's talk about the grill parts, these structures that can be shot through that I talked to about in the first video. The modules that you want to put your guns on. If we hide it behind the cab, it's going to take less damage. It's going to be harder for the enemies to shoot. And you can sink it down one, and I think these can actually be sunk down 2 spots and still be able to shoot over the cab. They do, however, have a slight issue in that they are large and it's hard to build them next to each other without taking up a lot of space. So let's press escape real quick and test drive it and see how these react to being put right next to each other. You don't have any real gun depression. See, you can't aim down. So I would actually recommend not sinking them so low. Great amount of armor, really hard to knock your guns off, but if you can't use them, what good are they? The answer is none. They're not good at all. So if we put them like this, you can shoot down a little bit. You have gun depression. And when you're building, use your test drive over and over and over again and make sure that every single aspect of your vehicle works. So, for now, that's where the guns go. I've got the radio and the radar to figure out where they need to be. And this guy. Let's figure out wheels. What kind of wheels do we want to use? Let's go ahead and stay with the blues. I don't want to use my purples unless I have to. Well, actually, No, 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 no. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it simple. I'm going to put the large wheels in the back. I find they do better in the back. And these will get adjusted repeatedly over and over and over again. Nothing is permanent. Create the overall base to start with. Now you see our mass just now went white. It was yellow, which means that our acceleration is dramatically affected by the weight. So it's probably going to take a few more wheels because we don't have any armor on here yet. Let's figure that out. Different types of... Each different faction has different stats for their armor. Example, we have the lunatics, which are very light, but they don't have a lot of hit points. Engineering, which are very just kind of stuck in the middle of everything. Avia, for the nomad parts, let's compare them to engineers. Avias are a little tougher and a little heavier than engineer parts. And as you go further and further towards the right of the faction screen, they tend to get heavier right up until you get to the Dawn's Children. Well, actually, no, Steppenwolves are lighter than Scavengers. I lied entirely. Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just the one telling this tutorial. Scavengers are the heaviest parts. They're also the strongest parts. They also have larger parts than, say, the Nomads, so you can make a larger vehicle out of them with fewer pieces, which is important. Especially when you get to the Steppenwolves, because they have the largest pieces, and it's easier to make a larger vehicle out of them. They have a little bit less durability than the Scavengers, but at the same time they're a little lighter. A lot lighter. Dawnwolves kind of all over the board. The control modules, they're good for weight, and they have a great structure to weight ratio for some of their parts, but like the Broken Radiator, it's more of a piece that fits rather than effective. They make great decorations. I like them, but the Dawn Children's parts are not consistent. I do want to put some heavy armor in front. So let's go ahead and put the train plow. Whether or not you use it for ramming, it's a whole different story. You probably don't want to be ramming with this particular build that we're going to be making. I'd like to move it forward so that I have two pieces of armor in front of the engine. So I have to take this entire frame. And that being said, I like to have my front ramming part directly connected to the frame. It just makes it stronger. If you put it on the armor, if the armor goes, and it can, with a cannon shot, there goes your plow. A huge amount of armor straight off the front of your vehicle. And you don't want that. So, try to attach it to the frame and connect these two frames so that if any one of these frames goes, the ones that aren't attached, the rest of them stick rather than getting blown off with it. Okay. Where do we want to go? I've got a lot of armor in the front to cover with this engine, so I'm going to get this pipe piece. It's a little longer. I'm going to put it on either side here. So that's 6. We have a 7 long front section. Let's use Scavengers. Now for the front, it depends entirely on how you want to do it. You can layer them like this, or like this, stack them. In this particular case, I'm going to layer them. Now, we're getting to some kind of tricky little parts here, how to fill these little sections in. And, you know, you don't necessarily have to, but it's there. My cat is meowing. That's not big enough. Let's do it this way. Move this forward. Duplicate that. I'm using a heck of a lot of parts for this front end, but you really do want a lot of armor in the front anyways, so it's not that big of a deal. And if you do have some gaps, that's fine. You don't have to have a completely homogeneous build. This right here, I'm doing for cosmetic purposes. Don't judge me. Alright, so let's press F real quick and see where we can build. I have to build up one more layer before I can build over that engine. So in order to do that, we're going to have to create... I'm trying to figure out how to do this effectively. Well, that's a long piece. Doesn't look good. Yes, I'm judging the looks of this thing. Oh, that could work. And a lot of building, a lot of what we're going to end up doing while constructing these things is just trial and error, start it over and do it over again, over and over and over and over and over and over. A build is never finished. It's just a continuous evolution of parts. And after, every single fight that you do, you're going to find something else that you want to change until the build is a nice and lovely polished machine. I had to let the cat out. She was meowing and being very bossy. Little punk. And there's another thing we can talk about. There is the potential to cover your wheels, and let's do that. Cover the wheels a little bit. You don't have to go all the way over. If you just create an overhang around the sides, that still protects your wheels a little bit from cannon fire. So I don't have enough of these parts to actually do 4 on either side, or 2 on either side. I only have 3 of them, so that's not a good option. Let's not do that. Let's not do that at all. You know what? Let's just create a layer here. I'm going to use the Dawn Children parts real quick because they're readily available. We have to get up. Well, you know what? Let's sink the engine down one more point. We can do that. And then flip it upside down, actually. That way we can use the bottom and build on that. Use it as a connection point for whatever we need. I think that was a little too low. And, sometimes these things take finagling. That actually looks kind of cool. You give us a little scoop underneath, and it's protected by the plow, so it's not like it's just going to get blown off with every single cannon shot that comes through. It's another reason to keep these plows, and to sink them one piece lower than the frame. I actually had a kind of a long conversation with a clanmate about that. He was asking about it, and it's good practice. No, I don't want it to be that low. There we go. That's where I want it. Flush with everything. So, if I put this here, it's not going to cover any of the cab. It leaves too much of it open for attack. So let's get a big part. Is this wide enough? That is wide enough right there. And then we can build on top of it. Now, I have a problem here. This part is only connected to one piece. If this part goes, and that is no bueno. You want to avoid that if at all possible. You want at least 2 connection points. So, if we do 2 of them, they stack on top of each other like that. It connects to the frame and there. So, just a thing to be aware of. Now, I'm going to cheese it up a little bit, and I'm going to put a Dawn Children part there. And then I'm going to judge this thing hard, because I don't necessarily like that this Dawn Children part doesn't go all the way to the front. But what we're doing here, at this point, is creating a nice little wedge build, so things will be somewhat likely to go right up and over the build if you ram them. Let's do that. And this is a very, very heavily armored front end. I mean, it's going to take a lot of bullets to get through that. End of story. Which is good. That's what we want. I'm going to stop judging that. It's not important right now, and, you know, over the course of several battles as it evolves, maybe it'll go away. Who knows? Here's one thing I like to do. I like to cover my front wheels a little bit with these hatchet parts, just from direct fire from the front. So that, you know, you can ram things and they don't just get knocked right off. Move that back a little bit. I moved that back a little too far. Okay, now we have a lot of ground to cover. This is where we're going to be using a lot of really big, long parts. Example being the truck door or the APC panel. Nomads actually has one of these as well, which I really like to use because it looks good. It has a good slope to it. They have the narrow wing, and you can, you know, put that there. It's just a matter of making it flow with the rest of the parts that we have already on here. And, you know, mirror it, put it on both sides. There we have armor on the sides of the cab as well, which, again, you're going to want it. And I like to do 2 layers on the side. Sink it down a little bit. And the reason for that being, so I can put part underneath here and connect it to more than just this one part. And you can do it either this way, or this is Crossout. It's about creativity. Do it whatever way you want. This is about you. And what you like. And what turns you on. Preferably not. I don't want to actually hear about what turns you on. This is not the purpose behind this video. Now, if you take a look at our tonnage, we've already gone over. We need more wheels, which is going to kill our acceleration. But what can you do? Also notice I'm using all steering wheels. That's a personal thing. I just like to do it. I'm going to end up using a couple of racing wheels on here because I am out of you know, I know what they're called. I really do. Twin wheels. I have one left, and who wants a funky lopsided build? This is a problem. I might have to switch engines because we're still over mass, and I'm not happy with the amount of armor that we have on here. So what I'm going to do is go underneath here. I'm going to pull this engine out, and I'm going to put the cheetah in. Just like that. Because it gives us extra tonnage. It means that we can't make a vehicle that's quite as large overall, but it gives us that extra tonnage to get past what we're doing here. Now, I'm just playing around with an idea. I'm going to create some wheel skirts along the side of this build. Kind of like that. Partially because it looks cool. Mostly because it looks cool, actually. Question is, how do I want to do it? Because I still need to put at least one layer of protection over the side of the cab. Here. So let's do that. Now, if we do this, alright, we're actually going into a different video here with making it all look sexy. So let's not do that. Let's just do a quick and dirty, get this out of the way, and then we'll go over beautification in a different process, in a different video, in a different process. Because otherwise, this is going to take, I don't know, 8 hours. Okay. So how do we want to deal with this bad boy? I'm going to connect him back here, and I'm going to see if I can wrap... Oh, that was the last part. See, it just sunk? Pain in the butt. Let's get a couple of these, stick them on the back, and I ran out, so let's move that back here and get a truck door. Now, we're running into a problem where we have to get around this cannon part and connect back here. But we're also kind of in the way of the wheels. Crossout, why you so fun? This is the complex part about building a large building. This darn game. How is this gonna work? Can I sink? Nope. That's as far in as I'm gonna get. Which is fine. We can work with that. We do want to cover the sides here of these exposed tanks. Alright. Okay. What's different? Oh, that's still there. Double check it to make sure everything's going where it needs to be. This needs to be lowered one more. Oh, that's how it went in there. It's underneath the wheel well of the truck. That's kind of cool. And, you know, when you're playing around, you'll find those magical little spots like that. I like that. That makes me happy. So let's tuck this in, rotate it for cosmetic purposes. And now I'm out of parts, so I'm going to actually get rid of that one and use a Dawn Children part instead. This is not overly crucial armor right in here, but I think it's necessary. Can I raise that? No, that is going to be exactly where it is, and it's not going to be anywhere else. We can not lose those. We can, however, do this and make everything a bit more flush. Okay, let's get the strength and slope. Sneak that up right up in there. This covers a little bit of, gives you a little bit of coverage from the back end. Right now, it's just about wrapping it. You can make it pretty later. I'd like to make it pretty right now. I always want it to be pretty. Tell me I'm pretty! What is wrong with me? Okay. Now, still wrapping. I want to put this up along the side a little bit so that the guns, the bases of the guns are completely enclosed. Which gives us a big old gap right here, which is fine. This is the fun of it, right? And doing this connects all these pieces to another part. It gives you, this is a very good glue piece. I still have a big gap where my cab is showing through, so I've got to cover that. And that's where I'm going to get my narrow wings back. Now we got another problem. Weight. And it's kind of a good thing that this happened, because now I'm going to show you how to get rid of it. Get rid of that red problem down there. 1400, 146. Now we need to figure out where the least important pieces of armor are. And rather than, just deleting them, we need to reduce them to a lighter piece. I don't want to get rid of anything in the front. So take the scavenger parts and maybe replace them with an aviate panel from the Nomads, and do that on both sides. Boom. 13,930. And that leaves us with this bad boy, this monstrosity. I don't have any armor on the sides. I don't have hard armor on the sides or on the rear. But we do have 2 cannons. Fire off at once. We have 23 shells. It's actually not slow, and I used steering wheels in all points, so it rotates and turns very quickly. We also didn't use any decorations, but you know, that comes after making the armor pretty and flowy. That's not where we're at right now. I'm not even going to paint it. I'm going to look at the time, realize that this is a 30-minute video, and call it good. But again, it's kind of a recap. Start here. Put your guns on these. Hide them a little bit behind the cab so they don't get blown off as easy. Figure out what parts you want to put on your build before you even start putting the build. Set them aside. And be willing to let go. If something's not working out, move on. Peace.